Right along here, Locked On SEC, and pleasure now to be joined by our buddy, host of Locked On Auburn, our good friend Zac Blackerby, jumping in with us to talk all things SEC, and he joins us now. Zac, what's going on, man?
Gordy, apologize for being a little late, but I'm excited to talk a little Auburn football with you. Man, crazy stuff happening here on the Plains these days.
Yeah, we got you now. A little audio quirk there to start the interview, but no big deal. We're set up and we're ready to go. And yeah, man, we just talked with you 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, we'll talk with Zac in a couple weeks. Auburn's going to be just fine. They're going to be cruising. They'll be winning a lot of games they're supposed to be winning and all this. Let's start first with, scale of 1 to 10. How shocked were you that Auburn found themselves in a competitive game this past weekend against a much more inferior opponent?
10. A 10 on that one. I mean, we went into it knowing Georgia State was going to be the second best team that Auburn played thus far. Obviously, Penn State being the first, but yeah, they didn't look good. They were without Zacoby McClain and Papo. That was a bigger deal to the defense than I thought it would be. But look, they just weren't focused. They didn't execute, and they looked lost on both sides of the football. And props to Georgia State, they almost did it. I mean, they were seconds away, one play away from really putting together an awesome upset. They upset a really good Tennessee team a few years ago. I say really good. They went 8-5 that year. I mean, they were a fine Tennessee team, best they've been in a while. But yeah, they almost pulled it off. And fortunately for the Tigers, they did not. But it took a quarterback switch. Bo Nix, we thought it was impossible, but Bo Nix was benched by Brian Harsin, and TJ Finley came in and really put the team on his back, especially offensively. A 98-yard drive to win the thing.
Let's talk about Nix. What did you see out of him? What was different? Because he was so good in the first couple games,
right?
Had some good moments against Penn State, inconsistent. But what was happening on Saturday where he just wasn't good?
Yeah, and I thought he was fine against Penn State. You'll see different opinions out there, but yeah, I think he's been pretty good up to this point. And then all of a sudden, he looks like 2020 Bo Nix. Is kind of what Auburn Twitter was saying over and over and over again. Oh no, 2020 Bo Nix is back. And it looked a little different, Gordy, right? Like in the past, we'd see him leave the pocket for no reason. But, we saw his throwing mechanics kind of break down a little bit against Georgia State. But when it really came down to it was accuracy. And look, one of the early plays against Penn State, he hurt his shoulder. He got up kind of, rubbing it and working it out a little bit. You saw him be a little uncomfortable physically with that throwing shoulder against Georgia State. So there's a lot of folks that say, hey, maybe he's hurt. Maybe that's something that he's dealing with. And, maybe that was what caused a lot of the accuracy issues that we saw on Saturday, because look, he was very inaccurate. He was not hitting wide open guys like Javarius Johnson. I mean, Javarius Johnson should have a 70+ yard touchdown catch to his name based on how he played Saturday. I mean, guys got open, but just a lot of overthrows, a lot of misses, and it just didn't look right. He did not look like the same quarterback that we've seen so far this season.
What did you see from Finley? And man, like when they got the punt and it's down at the 2-yard line with 2 minutes to go or whatever, I'm going, no way in hell. I mean, TJ Finley's a fine quarterback, but there's no way in hell he's going to drive them 98 yards down the field for a touchdown. And lo and behold, he does. What did you see out of him?
I mean, he looked like a starting SEC quarterback on that drive. And there were times before that where it didn't all click, right, Gordy? But there were times, they start the drive off with a really nice run from Jarquez Hunter. And then after that, it was really all on the arm of TJ Finley. And there was a 3rd and 10 early in the drive where it's like, oh no, this is about to fall apart real quick. And then you have to have the debate of, do you punt or do you go for it on, 4th and 10? And he had a great throw to Kobe Hudson to move the chains. And then there was another 3rd down situation, and he was able to, scramble, use his feet, and find Elijah Canyon on the sideline with an NFL toe touch type catch. Really, really good stuff. And then several plays later, it's 4th down, and they've got to move the chains or the football game is over. And immediate pressure from everywhere, and he eludes guys and somehow gets away from it. And he finds Shedrick Jackson. Shedrick Jackson scores his first ever touchdown with the Auburn Tigers. And so he looks like a different guy when the game was on the line, and he knew it. The team rallied around him. He gave his receivers opportunities. And man, the way he gets rid of the football, it's really, really fun to watch. I thought that when we watched him a little bit at LSU last year. I mean, his release point is just so high, and he's so stinking big. He's massive.
Right.
That 6'7" frame. I mean, he's got a lot of power from where he releases the football. If he can just get the accuracy right, which he did at times on Saturday, I think Auburn can have a pretty good quarterback in TJ Finley. Is he the guy this year? I don't know. Brian Harsin, as of Monday, when he was talking with media, would not make that decision yet. But when they sent out the media packet, the weekly media packet to all members of the media, obviously you click on that. The first thing you do is you scroll down to the depth chart. Bo Nix is still listed as the starter. So take that for what it's worth. Brian Harsin would not commit to anyone on Monday. But I think when you look at what Finley did on Saturday, he came in, and this is a guy that's not used to getting these starting reps, Gordy. This is a guy that's used to kind of being a role player in practice and just kind of learning mentally behind Bo Nix, not getting a whole lot of the physical reps, the physical action. He came in, took a few drives to get going, and then once he did, he looked like a really, really good quarterback. So I can't wait to see what happens. If I'm Auburn, I don't announce anything till game time. I don't think there's any reason not to. Keep LSU on their toes.
Give me the gut feeling. I mean, look, the journalists, media fans, they're going to love to have the storyline of TJ Finley going back to LSU to stick it to him because they didn't give him the starting job. Gut feeling, who starts Saturday and how does it play out? If it is Finley, is it Finley the whole game? If it's Nix, do we see both quarterbacks? How do you see this playing out Saturday? Because it's a late night game in Tiger Stadium and LSU is going to be rocking. As
you and I have this conversation at 5:00 on Monday, I just don't see a reality where Bo Nix doesn't start on Saturday. I think Bo Nix is Brian Harsin's guy. I think he's made that decision. And I think he has a shorter leash. And maybe Harsin's doing this to motivate Bo Nix moving forward. I don't know. And, I think you could see him respond either way. Nix has been kind of, he's been on 2 different radio shows kind of talking about things today and kind of saying the same thing, that he, was shocked that he was taken out and he thought he was playing fine. And, obviously the Auburn fan base has responded to that in different ways, but my gut reaction is Bo Nix starts and Auburn does not win in Baton Rouge on Saturday.
And Zach, as we look ahead to some of the games this weekend, man, it is just like, I'm going to be going to the LSU Auburn game this weekend. I'm excited to go, but I'm also talking to friends. I'm like, well, okay, what tailgate are you going to have the TV on? Because I got to see Arkansas, Georgia. I got to see Ole Miss, Alabama. I mean, like I'm used to sitting in my man cave every weekend and having all the TV screens and watching all the SEC games. But man, which matchup outside of LSU Auburn intrigues you most this weekend?
Well, fortunately for Auburn LSU folks, you can wait till the last minute because the game might as well just start at midnight at this point.
Goodness, 8 Central. I mean, if you live on the East Coast and you're an Auburn or LSU fan, my God, you're going to be, making eggs in the morning.
Yeah, I'm staffing our post game show and getting board ops and all that. It's like, yeah, the show may start at midnight for our post game show. Sorry about that. But they're like, are you kidding me? Look, I'm obsessed with watching the Arkansas Razorbacks this year. I think they have been so fun to watch. I was kind of waiting towards for the Texas A&M matchup to kind of see if it was legit or not. And boy, I think it is. I think it really, really is. I can't wait to watch Coach Pittman. That he has quickly probably become my favorite coach in the SEC. Those guys just buy in. And I mean, they were ahead of schedule last year. And I'm really, really excited to see what Arkansas is able to do on Saturday. I want to watch every snap of every Arkansas game for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. The early time is Georgia maybe a little bit sleepy. The defense has been lights out at Georgia, don't get me wrong. And KJ Jefferson being banged up last week is not help Arkansas. But if they're able to run the ball at all, I think Arkansas's defense is very underrated. And, man, if they're able to get to – JT Daniels has not set the world on fire yet this year. Granted, the Georgia run game's really good, but this could be a slug match, punch each other in the mouth and maybe a little bit low scoring, at least for the first half. So I'll be interested to see how that one plays out.
Yeah, from an Auburn perspective, Georgia comes to Auburn next week. Can Arkansas kind of beat them up a little bit for the Tigers just to see what's going on there? But, look, I'm not expecting Arkansas to win this game, but if they can just be competitive, I know Pittman's probably not the guy that's really into moral victories, but, man, if they could just kind of keep it close, just keep it close with the Georgia Bulldogs, I think that would be a mighty statement for his guys to make this early into SEC play. Then, of course, the other obvious one outside of Auburn LSU is Ole Miss Alabama, and I think that's going to be I mean, that's going to be a fun one to watch. It's going to be a ton of points. I don't care what betonline.ag set for the over under for this. You've got to take the over. I don't care what it was.
Easy money. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. I mean, both teams are going to score every drive. It's going to be a blast.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's the CBS 2:30 Central game of the week. And my goodness, Matt Corral, we saw him do it last year. He torched that Alabama defense up and down. Granted, this time it's in Tuscaloosa, but Alabama, I'm looking at the lines at about 2 touchdowns. I'm going, what am I missing here? Like is Ole Miss? This very well could be last team with the ball wins. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. Definitely going to be keyed in on that one. How about Florida, Kentucky? I mean, Kentucky's been this kind of sneaky good 4-0 team. It was the offense early in the season. This last week against South Carolina, they were doing it with the defense. Emory Jones has been really good, man. Everything I want to say about where's Anthony Richardson, all this. Emory Jones is like, forget him. I'm the guy. Be curious to see how he responds to this Kentucky defense in a really loud Kroger Field on Saturday night.
I'm really high on the Florida Gators. I was high on the Florida Gators going into the season. And I think, I know it was a big deal for Kentucky to beat Florida a few years ago for like the first time in a million years or something like that. But I'm just not buying it. I think this Florida team believes they belong at the top of the SEC East. And I really think that they believe that they can beat Georgia later in the year. That's just kind of the mindset that I see when I watch these Florida Gators and listen to our guy Brandon talk about it over on Locked On Gators. I just really think they can do a lot of things offensively. And I get that Kentucky is a legitimate team. I don't know if they're a top 25 team, if I'm being entirely honest with you. But based on what they've done so far, you've got to put them up there. But I think Florida may make a big statement on Saturday against the Wildcats.
Yeah, it would be a great one to make. And then on top of it, I mean, I'm still everybody's jumping on Georgia. That Florida-Georgia game, I'm not decided on that one yet. When we get there, we'll see how Florida's looking at that point. Just quick thought on 2 other ones. Mississippi State going to A&M feels like a get-right game for A&M. Them playing at home. And, man, Leach, unfortunately, could be talking about a 3rd straight loss for him. And then Tennessee on the road at Missouri. Missouri loses in overtime to Boston College up in Boston. And Tennessee looked good in the first half against Florida, but second half we got to see lack of depth is really what's hurting the Vols.
Right. I mean, Mississippi State, I don't think has a chance against Texas A&M. I think get-right game is a perfect way to describe that. And look, I don't think A&M is all it's cracked up to be. That was kind of one of my things that I talked about over the summer was, look, I know there's a lot of hype for A&M. I'm just not seeing it. Obviously, them dealing with quarterback issues is not an ideal situation. But look, our boy Calzone, I think he's done fine. I know that's not his real name. But that's what I call him. And as far as Missouri versus the Vols, like, look, I'm never going to expect Tennessee to win a game moving forward until something major happens. So yeah, give me the Missouri Tigers. Yeah,
at least Hendon Hooker can not overthrow guys every time like Joe Milton was doing earlier in this year. All right, I know you kind of hinted at it, but LSU hosting Auburn. I know you kind of said you feel like it's a game Auburn may or will lose. I just think if Auburn can establish the ground game, we saw LSU this past week struggled to stop the run when Mississippi State ran it. They just stopped running. And Mike Leach is so obsessed with the air raid and throwing the ball. I think Auburn's going to have some success running the ball with Tank Bigsby and company. And I think if they stick with that and then go with the short throws, no matter who the quarterback is, I think Auburn's in this game to the very end.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be close. And look, if Auburn can run the ball consistently and not have to rely on, whoever's starting at quarterback for the Tigers, that's going to be a plus. I mean, the 1-2 punch of Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter, and then Sean Shivers returned off of, after missing 2 weeks. He's kind of going to be that gadget guy. It looks like he ran the ball twice against Georgia State. Both were jet sweeps. So we'll probably see him more in a similar role for that moving forward. Maybe you'll see some play action off of that or something. I think he'd be pretty creative if you're Brian Harsin or Mike Bobo there. But I think LSU wins this game when it's all said and done, because I just don't trust Auburn's offense at this point. As far as play calling goes, they just get too cute in the red zone, and I don't like that, Gordy. And then as far as the defense, they've got to find an identity. They look totally different when Zacoby McClain got done serving that 1/2 suspension from that really bogus targeting call that was called against Penn State. Right. And the defense looked way better when he was there. It's kind of expected that Owen Papo makes his return. And so Auburn gets their 2 best players back on the field at the same time. And then the 1-2-3 punch, if you throw in Chandler Wooten there at the linebacker position, been really, really good. Their run defense has been great leading up to Georgia State. Was that a personnel thing? Was it a scheme thing? Was it a discipline thing? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But, I just recorded a conversation with Auburn linebacker Chandler Wooten for Locked On Auburn, which will be up today. When you're listening to this, it'll be up this evening. But I think when it's all said and done, I think they do enough on defense, but it's just the offense for the Tigers that is going to kind of make them fall short.
Zach, great stuff. I was going to tell, to let our listeners know what you got up on the podcast, but Chandler Wooten, part of Locked On Auburn, pretty cool deal.
Yeah. One of Auburn's 2 permanent team captains. We wanted to go out and solidify our relationship with him. He's a pretty cool dude. And so we're excited starting, I guess this evening when it goes up tonight, Tuesday evening, it'll be a weekly thing. So we're going to chat with him. He talks about what the Tigers are doing to prepare for this road trip going to Baton Rouge, as well as kind of what all is going on in practice in response to them almost losing to Georgia State. He's got a lot of really, really interesting stuff to talk about. So, yeah, be sure to check that out.
Yeah, just FYI, the whole SEC, stop scheduling Georgia State and Georgia Southern. Just nothing ever good happens with scheduling those 2 schools. So
That's right. Yeah. And somehow this is Auburn's first time playing Georgia State, right? And so I bet they don't do that again, Chris.
Yeah, they'll be delayed. Just like who was it? Tennessee just bailed on Army. They're like, yeah, go schedule Akron or somebody. You'll be dumping out very quickly. Zach, thanks so much for the time, man. Really appreciate it.
Gordy, I appreciate you, brother.
All right, Zac Blackerby, host of Locked On Auburn.